You crowd surfed in me, man. But you haven't worn me in like forever. I get it, you're retired, but I still got some rock left in me. So take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff, create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
On this rainy spring Tuesday, we welcome you into the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Kev, happy Tuesday. Were you out soaking in the sun, I'm sure?
What up, though? No, I got to the station. Probably what time did I get here? I got here like about 10.
Oh, look at you.
It was raining already. Went to lunch. It was still raining. Came back from lunch. It's still raining. And when we get off the air, it will still be
raining. So, big Tuesday night for me, though. Big bowling night. We're wrapping up the league here in 2 weeks. We're battling for first place. So, Kinner's raised his average about 20 pins from the beginning of the season. Kinner's ready to go. I've been stretching all day. I've been, doing this. I've been stretching my arms so I can get ready for the curls, So, it is what it is. But I'm excited for tonight. A shortened show today. We do welcome everybody in. The Reds will have. Sorry about that. I always forget to turn the additional mic off. If it wasn't for our listeners, the echo is off. Matt on YouTube, I appreciate you. Thank you, man. That is off. At least give me the thumbs up so I know that it's sounding better. But nonetheless, but yes. Big bowling night for all Ken Dogs. So there you go. Lots to dive into. We only have 40 minutes today again, I've been thinking about this yesterday. Bengals fans got on me yesterday. They said they appreciated, and again, when I say they, just a few, they said they appreciated that I wasn't, bagging on the Bengals too much yesterday. I said, well, there's not much to bag on the Bengals right now for. The Bengals have been kicking ass this offseason, but you got to understand they were on me because I didn't highlight much of what they did yesterday on the show. And I said, well, to be fair, I think that the biggest topic in all of sports right now is not just because I'm a Browns fan, but the Deshaun Watson thing to Cleveland's a huge deal. So we got that out of the way yesterday. Just a disclaimer, fan of the quarterback, not the person. I think that's going to be a theme of the show moving forward because I don't feel like dealing with the back and forth with people. So it is what it is. So Damon Hunt says, what happened to the remote bowling event? Nothing's happened to it. It hasn't gone away. It'll be, we'll get it ironed out. Nothing's been taken away, though. So we got to thinking earlier today. I was talking with Kev, about today's show, and I said, when you look at what both teams have done, when you look at what the Bengals have added, with that offensive line being highlighted by Collins, of course, who I don't think was a piece that any Bengals fan thought that they were going to get. I did not think that the offensive lineman free agent class or available free agents was that deep this year. Still solid guys, and obviously if they believed in Burrow, they would have headed to Cincinnati, and sure enough, that's what happened. But Collins was just a great piece, a great addition. And I joked yesterday, I said that if the Cincinnati Bengals had the worst upcoming draft, the draft coming up, if they have the worst draft in franchise history, I still give them an A+ for what they've done this offseason because they only had one responsibility, and that was to make sure your franchise Kid Cudi quarterback does not get sacked 70 times. Okay? Kid Cudi, Lil Wayne, it don't matter where he's at, to protect him. That way he could remain going to concerts. That way he could remain having fun. And look, now that I'm so far removed from the Super Bowl, it really don't bother me. It ticked me off at that time, but now I'm like, good for you, dude. Like, do your thing. But happy for him and the Bengals for getting these deals done, because I was like, I know I like to poke fun at the Bengals, but what if they don't get like premier offensive linemen to come? Eventually it goes for me kind of making my jab, kind of throwing my jabs their way and towards the fan base. But I was like, if they don't address the O-line, or if they half-ass it like they did last year, and Jackson Carman was a half-ass attempt to fix the O-line, no one's going to win that argument with me. But Jackson Carman looks a lot better between the trees. Right. He looks a lot better. Jackson Carman's more forgivable when you have Collins and you have those guys around him. So that was always my big, gripe about that last year. But man, they had one job only: protect. All right, protect, obviously, Joe Burrow. And they've done that already. Like I said, the worst draft in NFL history. If they have that coming up, doesn't matter. They're still going to get an A+ as far as the offseason goes from here. Then you look at the Cleveland Browns. They had Deshaun Watson. They had Amari Cooper. Jarvis Landry bounces. Hooper bounces. There's talks. I've been reading all day that Jarvis, there's a very good chance he ends up back in Cleveland. And if you have Amari Cooper at 1, Jarvis at 2, and obviously you have Njoku, and you have a great tight end right there. You best O-line in football, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, the running game. That offense is deadly. So at the end of the day, really what it comes down to is we're looking at 2 teams. And by the way, I cannot count out what Kev's Pittsburgh Steelers have done. Kev, your team has just been, it's less sexy names. It hasn't been anyone that, it's a lot of the, Mitch Trubisky. A significant upgrade at quarterback, not from a historic standpoint. Big Ben will always go down as one of the all-time greats. You don't have to like him, but that's the reality of it. So yeah, you're replacing a GOAT, but Big Ben hasn't been a GOAT the last couple of years. You can fill in whatever other animal you want to call him over the last. No, not all his fault, by the way. But that O-line, they've made significant upgrades at that O-line with limited resources. The Bengals had more resources to go get the bigger dogs than they did. The Steelers would have loved to have a chance to get Collins and some of those guys, but I think that they've still done a fantastic job. But the 2 teams that have made the sexier splashes, as far as I'm concerned, out of the AFC North, are the Browns and Bengals. And at the risk of stirring the pot here, okay, which team, Kev, improved their roster more? Which team, maybe not improve their roster, but improve their chances of winning a Super Bowl more? The Bengals were already in the Super Bowl. They have a franchise quarterback. They have a franchise quarterback that was sacked 70 times and still was within 1 play of potentially winning the Super Bowl last year. Everybody believes that if their O-line was better, they win that Super Bowl last year. That's what they believe. I'm not saying I don't believe it, but that's the mindset. Oh man, if we just had one more decent offensive line, we would have been set in the mindset of the Bengals. And maybe you're right. Then you look at the Cleveland Browns, who had already had a quarterback that, when healthy, could win you 11 plus games, who can get you to the playoffs, who can win you games in the playoffs. We already know that, but they've significantly upgraded.
Definitely
Significantly upgraded. The Browns, for the first time in a long time, probably since Josh Gordon, have a number 1 wide receiver in Amari Cooper. I'm not the biggest Cooper fan, but I know the dude could play. Jarvis Landry has been the best wide receiver the Browns have had over the last 4 or 5 years, but he's not a number 1. Jarvis is a true number 2, and I think the idea of getting, obviously, OBJ was to be able to fit Jarvis as the 2, and then you have one of the best dynamic 1-2 punches in the league. I will say this, even if they bring Jarvis back, as much as I like Cooper, as much as I like Jarvis Landry, they are no Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. T. Higgins is well on his way to potentially being a number 1 wide receiver, and I think that he will be a roster he will be a cap casualty when it's time to pay Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and those guys. That's just the reality of it. That's a future number 1 wide receiver. The Bengals have 2 technically they have 2 number 1 wide receivers. They're set. Okay. So the bottom line is the Browns have done a lot of maneuvering. The Bengals have done a lot of maneuvering. And I shouldn't say a lot. The Browns and Bengals have very, very precise in their maneuvering as far as improving their roster heading into next season. We haven't even got to the draft. So with that being said, Kev, before we get to the draft, if these are the last moves that both the Browns and Bengals make the rest of the offseason, which team has set themselves up more for a Super Bowl, the Browns or the Bengals?
The Bengals. The Bengals, because there's still so much unknown about Deshaun Watson. We all believe that he's still going to be suspended for anywhere between 4 and 6 games. But the NFL could say 8 games because it's so many women. They could say a whole season. We just don't know. Or it can be proven in court that none of this stuff is true, like it did in, criminal court. Like the civil cases could be thrown out. The judge could say, there's nothing here. He did nothing wrong. And then he's playing all the games. So for that reason alone, with so much uncertainty about Deshaun Watson and his playing future, I have to go with the Cincinnati Bengals off of that. And like you said, they were just in the Super Bowl. They were literally 1 block away from winning the Super Bowl. Jamar Chase is wide open. If they hang on to a block for a split second longer, Joe Burrow might hit him for a game-winning touchdown. So I got to go with the Bengals.
I've been back and forth all this. If I'm a troll, I'm going to say the Browns, but I have to say the Bengals for the reasons you just said. I said yesterday, things could change, but as of right now, and we haven't listed. I want to wait till we have a full show to do this, by the way. So probably tomorrow's show. As I said yesterday on Keith Byers' show yesterday, him and I, we kind of went through the AFC and we counted 13 or 14 legitimate playoff contenders. 14 teams out of the AFC, not the entire league, the AFC alone, 14 playoff contenders, 14 teams that if they miss the playoffs, it will be considered it's wrong. You have to make the playoffs. There's so many teams that have gone all in. Think about the Colts doing what they did to get Matt Ryan, their third starting quarterback in 3 years now, of course, Phillip Rivers, and then obviously going out and getting in the exact same spot I spaced on his name yesterday, Carson Wentz, and then now with him. So many teams have made drastic moves this offseason that you're like, if they miss the playoffs, that's a letdown. So that it's not a whole lot of margin for error. And that's why, despite the fact that I think the Bengals have a more explosive passing game, I look at the Browns, and if I take the off the field issues away from Deshaun Watson, I think that the Browns are the better overall offense. The Bengals have the more explosive offense. I don't think that's a hot take, right, Kev? Like, I think that the Bengals have the most explosive offense in the AFC North. But I think that the Browns, especially if they get Jarvis, if they have Cooper and they have Jarvis and they have Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and the best offensive line in football, I think right there that makes them the most balanced offense and the most explosive / balanced offense in the AFC North, but not as explosive, if that makes sense, as the Bengals. But right now, I picked the Browns to miss the playoffs next year. Not because I don't think they're good, but because the margin for error is so slim that 6 to 8 games without Deshaun Watson, 1 or 2 of those losses in that stretch could be what keeps them out of the playoffs. Let's be real. They had Baker Mayfield this year with one arm and the O-line out most of the year. Pretty much every star player playing, I'd say about 75% of the season. Kev, the Bengals won the division. They only won it by 2 games. The Browns lost the division by 2 games.
Right.
And if they have those guys against the Broncos, if they're healthy against the Broncos or the Raiders, they're beating the Raiders. How many games did they lose by 1 possession while their defense held teams to 16 or 15 points or below? Like, the Bengals won the damn division by 2 games, with the Ravens being beat up, the Steelers having a geriatric quarterback, and the Browns not having a complete roster all year. The Bengals are good, but I don't think that they're as untouchable as that fan base thinks. So that's what I'm saying is, look how margin for error last year, and the AFC wasn't as deep. It's even deeper this year. The Bengals have done enough to tune up the biggest need that they needed to address, and that was protecting Joe Burrow long-term. But next year alone, you get another near 1,000-yard year from T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and then if you can get Joe Mixon, how crazy a season is he going to have with an improved offensive line? He did that with a bad offensive line, just like he did the last time with Frank Pollock leading that offensive line, having a great breakout year. So I don't know. As of right now, I give the slight edge to the Browns as far as the most improved, to the point to where if there was no legal issues with Deshaun Watson, I would make them more favorable. I'd make them more of the favorite over the Bengals. But because of the legal issues and not knowing how long he'll be suspended, I have to give the nod to the Bengals. They have kicked ass this offseason. No jabs from me, no complaints from me. I've always said, you guys think I'm just a hater. I've always said, give me something to compliment them on, and I'll compliment them. There's really nothing to complain about. And this is what I've always wanted. Browns, Bengals on top. Now, Kev's over here like, okay, sure, if you say so. All right. But if you say so, because his Steelers are always right there in the mix of things. But this is fun. This is what I wanted. I thought that the Bengals were trending up and the Browns are trending down. I think now they're on an even trajectory, assuming that this legal stuff kind of gets put in the past, if you will.
I did want to ask you about all these splash trades and everything like that. All of them ain't going to work. Like, somebody's going to wet the bed. Like, we talk about the quarterbacks that get drafted in the first round, like, well, only half of them ultimately end up working out and everything like that. All these guys that are coming to the AFC and they got big contracts and they got big names and they had glorious past and everything like that, former MVPs, former Super Bowl winners, everything like that. Somebody's going to play like crap. It's just, who is it going to be?
So I'm glad you asked that, because the other thing I have in my rundown is, which big offseason move will have the least impact? Similar to what you're asking. Are you talking a quarterback, by the way? You just in general.
Well, shoot, we can throw in big name wide receiver like Devontae Adams. That's obviously Russell Wilson is coming to the AFC with the Broncos. Matty Ice is in Indianapolis and everything like that. It's so many big splash moves and everything like that, where we know that's not gonna, all of them ain't gonna make it. Kind of like what you and Byers were talking about. Like it's impossible. It's a numbers game. There's only 7 available spots where all these guys are gonna go. Like there's just not enough spots for teams to make the playoffs. So it's not going to work out for some teams. And we talked about this yesterday as well, where there's going to be one team that just is having that good year. Could it be the Dolphins? Could it be the Steelers? Could it be the Ravens? Like the teams that are flying on the outside who have not made those splash moves. One of those teams is going to be a good team. One of them is going to make the playoffs. But who's the team that's supposed to be good, that made these splash hires, spent a lot of money, gave up a lot of draft capital? Who's going to be the odd person looking out? Because I tell you what, if it's the Chargers, if they're on the outside looking in and they're still going for it on 4th and 5 from their own 20, somebody's going to have a new head coach in LA, and it ain't going to be the Rams.
That's fair. And let's pick up with that on the other side. 518-1410. We got Red Spring Training action coming up here at 3:50. We'll hand it off to Tommy Thrawn, the Cowboy. I do want to give a shout out to Corey. Corey said, he tweets out to us that, Kenner, I'm a huge Bengals fan. I just moved to Xenia from the Cincy area, so he can't listen to 1530 anymore, but I love your show, man. Keep it up. You said you're a Bengals fan. You just moved to the area. Corey, if you send me this same tweet in about a month or two, I will appreciate it even more. But I do appreciate it. Welcome back to the Dayton area. Obviously, Mo and those guys kick ass over in Cincinnati on 1530, but glad to have you listening to our station now. So, Corey, thank you. Your team, man, have a good offseason, and we'll see how long before I find something to complain about with the Bengals, I'm sure. But, Kev, you bring up a good point. One of these teams that has made these big splash moves is going to fall on their face. Which team is it? Now, look, I'm not going to lie. I'm a homer when it comes to the Browns, but I'm not delusional. The Browns, they're a walking disaster waiting to happen, right? Like they always, it's like Stephen A always pokes at the Cowboys like they're an accident waiting to happen. The Browns are the Cowboys of the AFC. And I don't think it's a coincidence that for whatever reason, those are the two teams that I'm a big fan of, the Cowboys and the Browns, right? No, if there was no legal issues at all with Deshaun Watson, I would put them as that team that I could see, oh man, them falling on their face because it's what the Browns is the Browns. But I think I've already said, I don't think the Browns make the playoffs this coming up year because of the suspension, because you're going to have Jacoby Brissett, who's not terrible, but again, you want Jacoby Brissett to step in and lead this team in a 2-month absence of Deshaun Watson, assuming that that's what it is. The Browns would be that, but I can't hold that against them if that's the case, even though because they made the trade knowing they'd be without him, but this trade was made for a 26-year-old superstar quarterback that it's more than just this upcoming season. Right. The Colts have made moves for a quarterback to win now. The Raiders made a move to win now. The Chargers getting Khalil Mack, that was to win now. So those are the teams I'm looking at. But I want to hear what others have to say. 518-1410, give us a call. We'll talk about which team right now, of all the teams that have made these big moves, which team is more likely to fall on their face and it not pan out the way that they are expecting. 518-1410, Kevin and I will be back.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be cloudy with rain, a high near 60. Tonight, rain continues, a low near 54, and tomorrow's going to be cloudy with rain, a high near 68. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Weather brought to you by Cullet Propane, keeping utilities simple and families warm since 1952. See how and more at culletpropane.com.
Tip off to frickin' madness. When we say tip off, not only are we talking about every college basketball game available, but our new barbecue rib tips only at Frickers. Delicious bite-sized barbecue rib tips with your choice of dipping sauce. Every game played to the march to the national championship and domestic draft personal pictures for only $6.50. Tip that personal picture. Tip off to the national championship of college basketball and frickin' barbecue rib tips at the home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Frickers.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours.
Spilled your milkshake? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker. And each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading Ordinary brand. So you can get back to your milkshake.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, It's better than your
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Dell's semi-annual sale is the perfect time to power up productivity and gaming victories. Now you can save what Dell employees save on high-performance tech. Save 17% on XPS and select Alienware computers with Intel Core processors. Plus, check out exclusive savings on Dell monitors, headsets, and accessories for greater immersion in all you do. Upgrade today by calling 800-BUY-DELL. Again, that's 800-BUY-DELL, or you can visit Dell.com/semi-annual sale.
Hey, here to tell you about my friends at Cordell Transportation. They're now hiring Class A CDL drivers and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, a $5,000 sign-on bonus, home daily, dedicated lanes, and no-touch freight. Brand new equipment as well, medical, dental, vision, and company-paid life insurance. Call Cody right now. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Want to find out what handheld perfection tastes like? Just stop by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken today for a flawless family feast with the 12-piece strips meal at a great price. Get 12 premium tenderloins that are freshly marinated, honey-dipped, hand-breaded, and cooked to crispy perfection, along with 3 large sides, 6 fluffy biscuits, and 4 of your favorite Lee sauces. This is dippable chicken done right. Get the best in boneless chicken with the 12-piece strips meal at a great price. Only at Lee's, famous for chicken.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good, really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless, now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Wait, aren't these all charitable donations?
At Magda's Tax Prep, every person counts.
I do not have to file for an extension.
She needs new auditors to maximize returns on her family time.
On itemized deductions. Hey, can someone help with these 1099s?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Would it be convenient for you if you could simply take what you wanted and leave the rest behind? Great, I'll buy it. I buy all types of real estate completely as is. I buy vacant properties, inherited homes, divorce situations, death in the family, apartment buildings, rental portfolios. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. Call TurboTrack Realty today for an all-cash offer and speak with one of our friendly staff members at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000.
At the Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission, we help veterans and their dependents navigate the process of applying for benefits administered by the VA. We can assist with VA claims, pensions, and a variety of benefits, including emergency financial assistance, transportation, and legal services. If you are a veteran or a spouse of a veteran, a wide range of services may be available to you, always at no cost to the veteran. We are honored and proud to serve all Miami Valley veterans. Contact us today at 937-225-4801.
I struggled with symptoms like frequent gas and stomach pain for years.
I was bloated all the time with daily diarrhea.
At first, I thought it was what I was eating.
I kept thinking it was stomach issues.
So I did my research and talked to my doctor, and we finally uncovered the truth.
It was actually EPI. Exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI, is a condition where your pancreas is unable to help break down your food.
It can lead to symptoms like diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, unexplained weight loss, and oily stools.
And EPI symptoms can be confused with those of other common digestive conditions, like irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, and celiac disease.
So getting to the right diagnosis meant being more open with my doctor about the severity of my symptoms and how often they were happening.
But there's good news. EPI is manageable, so don't wait any longer. Use the symptom checker at identifyepi.com and schedule a visit or call with your doctor to ask, could I have EPI?
Sponsored by AbbVie.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
There are many ways to catch the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. You can catch it live right here on 1410 Wing AM, or you can stream the show at wingam.com. But now we have another way that you can take in the show. You can now watch the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash live on ESPN Dayton's Facebook page. Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We do have Cincinnati Reds spring training action coming up at 3:50. Here's the deal. I get it, Reds fans. We're all a little frustrated. I know I'm frustrated. I thought that the Reds were trending in the direction of competing and winning, competing for divisional titles, or at least competing for wild cards. And now it's like they're competing for draft picks that we won't even know if they're good for another 5 years. It is frustrating. But as I said yesterday, there are a lot of things that, I'm that glass half empty kind of dude. I still think that there are enough pieces to make this team semi-interesting, especially I want to know throughout spring training what the roles of Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green are going to be heading into this upcoming season. You still have Luis Castillo, which it sounds like due to he's going to be out. He will not be available for opening day. Okay, fine. People that get upset at that, I saw people going off on that today. It's a 162 game season. If he's not available for opening day, that's fine. As long as I'm not told that he's out for the whole year, no need to panic. But if Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green have really solid rookie seasons, and again, I'm just assuming. I have no clue if they'll even, I don't know if either one of those guys will be within the rotation for the Reds. But let's just assume, because that's right now all we have is assuming and trying to be positive, right? If Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green are in the opening day rotation, as long as with Tyler Mahle, who, as if I had to guess right now, would be the opening day starter. I think that the Reds are in play here. I think they're in okay shape. You still have Mike Moustakas, you still have Joey Votto, you still have Nick Senzel, you have the Rookie of the Year and Jonathan India. There are enough pieces for the Reds to be semi-interesting. And they keep adding pieces. They're not the sexiest of pieces, but we'll see what happens. I don't think it just stinks because all you keep seeing is the pieces that aren't there anymore. No more Castellanos, no more Jesse Winker. Suarez, because of his play, makes it. I would have been more heartbroken to see him go a year and a half ago. But he had two very bad seasons back to back. It makes that one a little bit, that pill's a little easier to swallow. But still, fan favorite. Hate to see him go. So we'll see what happens, but I'm not ready to go full on negativity yet. I still think there's enough to work with to make this team interesting. And spring training, I'm just glad that we have the games on the air now. So coming up at 3:50, we'll hand it over to obviously the Reds broadcast team, and they'll take it over from here. But it is what it is. So Scott Campbell says Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Tyler Mahle, Tyler Stevenson, Jonathan India, Joey Votto are reasons for me to keep tuning in. Scott, we need more positive people like you out there. But that includes me. I'm not positive, so but I'm trying to be positive because, like that post just said from Scott, there are a lot of names that I've been hearing a lot about Hunter Green. I've been hearing a lot about Nick Lodolo, and getting to see them, that's something to look forward to every 5 days when those two are up, with their spot in the rotation. Tyler Mahle has a chance to take a huge step forward. And getting Luis Castillo back at some point will be ginormous. I don't know how people feel about the Johnny Cueto rumblings out there. That would be a nostalgia thing, but we've seen the Reds do that in the past, and it's just is it worth it? I think he is a few years from being the Bronson Arroyo type signing. When they brought Bronson Arroyo in, that was a nostalgia type deal. Right. Who else did they get? Jason Marquis. He was not a former Red, but with the Cardinals, they brought him in. Okay, you're taking a chance with the veteran arm. This usually doesn't work out. They usually give you a couple good solid innings, and then until the All-Star break, and then their arm falls off by the end. Harvey, actually, I think the Reds got the last good run of Harvey, honestly, before he was traded. So who knows? But it is what it is. We welcome you back, Justin Kinner, Kev Nash. We have about 20 more minutes with you. we were talking before the break about all of the offseason activity within the NFL and the seismic shift of dominance that is now at least expected on the side of the AFC. I mean, we all know that your quarterback is the face of optimism, and the Browns are a prime example. The Browns have been crapped on the last couple of years because Baker Mayfield is the one driving the bus that has all of the great players behind him, right? And I'm a Baker guy. I'm not crapping on him like most are, but Baker's the reason. Baker, like my views on the Raiders right now are probably how people viewed the Browns. I like Derek Carr, a winning quarterback, a very solid quarterback. But the Davante Adams trade is one that I look at as being of the least big moves of the big moves as far as impact is concerned this coming up season. So if you wanted to, we talked before the break about which big move was made this NFL offseason that will have the least impact on their team this upcoming season. Deshaun Watson to Cleveland, of course, could be watered down by if he's suspended for half a season. The Bengals those aren't the biggest of names, but that Collins trade was ginormous. Mm-hmm. So they're signing, I guess, did they cut him? The Cowboys cut him. A trade, so they signed him either way. I like that move. That might be that's one of the biggest ones that I think caps off the other two names that the Bengals added. But obviously, Adams to the Raiders, Khalil Mack going to the Chargers, obviously Russell Wilson to the Broncos. There have been big moves all over the place, and then you look at obviously the Colts with Matty Ice now officially a Colt that was made official. He landed today, so. A lot of big moves, but Kev, for me, the one move that I think will have the least impact, the biggest name that'll have the least impact on their new team in regards to the playoffs and getting to a Super, Adams to the Raiders. Adams will have a great year. You look at Carr, I think that he's underappreciated. You look at his total numbers, he's actually right up there with the total yardage of Aaron Rodgers and them. But there's just something that's not sexy about that offense. Maybe he will make them sexy. But for right now, if I had to guess which big name acquisition will make the least impact on their team as far as getting them to that next level, I think it'll be Adams to the Raiders. I think he'll have big numbers. I think Carr will have success with him. But I don't know if Adams is what takes the Raiders from middle of the pack, fringe playoff team like last year to favorites to win the West. I just don't see it. Deshaun makes the Browns one of the favorites to win the North. You look at, obviously the Colts going out and get Matty Ice. That makes them the favorite to come out of there, or at least compete to come out of there with the Titans, of course.
Right.
I think for me, the least impactful is Adams to the Raiders. It doesn't mean he won't have an impact, but I don't think it does anything as far as a seismic shift of making the Raiders true Super Bowl contenders when it's all said and done.
I love the Adams to the Raiders because now you have a legit number one. Now you have Hunter Renfrow out there. Now he can run around in the slot and not be bracketed. And now you got to think about how Davante Adams, he was catching a lot of short passes because he wasn't allowed to go long because he's constantly doubled and triple teamed and everything like that. You can't do that anymore. You can't double him the entire game like you could at Green Bay because you have to worry about Waller, their tight end. Obviously, you have to worry about Hunter Renfrow as well. So I think he's going to make a real good impact. Even though I think that the Broncos will win the AFC West, the biggest question mark for me would be Russell Wilson. Big Russell Wilson fan. But my question about Russ is, how much does he have left? Does he have a lot left? Because I've seen guys that I was like, oh, man, this is a great pickup for them and them in their back half of their career. Like Donovan McNabb when he went to the Washington football team from Philadelphia. I was like, oh, man, now Washington has a quarterback, Donovan McNabb. He's going to get them to the playoffs. And it was a hot mess. So, that's what I'm worried about. Does Russ have it left? Does he still have the ability to put a team on his back? I mean, they have an outstanding defense, something that he had with the Seahawks. And, Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, even though Jerry Jeudy didn't have a touchdown catch last season, which is completely amazing. So, is he going to be able to help those guys level their game up? Because you had DK Metcalf, you had Tyler Lockett, similar type of wide receivers that you had with the Broncos. The thing that you have now with the Broncos that you didn't have with Seattle is a good defense. I think they're going to be good, but that's my biggest question mark is, does Russ still have it? Because that's something that I'm worried about for them. So if it would be anyone that I was forced to pick, I would pick Broncos and Russ.
Yeah, I do like the addition for the Colts, getting Matty Ice, by the way, but at the same time, wide receiver core.
Is Paris Campbell going to play a whole season yet?
And if that's your one, that's a concern.
Pittman, he's pretty good.
So I think that, you have Jarvis and still guys out there that are available, but game changers. I mean, the Colts, I got to look at what they have draft capital wise coming up. But I mean, again, you're telling a veteran quarterback to go win it all with young, with potentially rookie wide receivers and Campbell, who's solid. But you're asking Matty Ice to go compete in the AFC against teams like the Browns with Cooper and Watson and Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. And Lamar's, forget the passing top point of it, Lamar could just dominate a game just with the ball in his hands one way or another, whether it's passing or running. So at the end of the day, it's one of those where I like the Matty Ice deal, but then the more I'm talking through it, I'm like, wait a minute, that can also be one of those to have a less impact on the Colts than what we were anticipating, even more so than what you're concerned about with Russell Wilson going to Denver. But man, and the other thing too about it, like Denver getting Russell Wilson, the reason I watered that down was because of the division that they went to. Russell Wilson, you're going to the same division that has Justin Herbert and the Chargers, and obviously, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And I'm disrespecting Carr, who has been fantastic, but just doesn't have that sexy name, right? But maybe Adams takes him to that next level. I mean, Carr could be an MVP candidate this upcoming year if all things go right, but especially with that defense.
I mean, the last time he had a top-notch receiver.
About Jacobs too.
Yeah. Last time Carr had a top-notch receiver was obviously when Amari Cooper was with the Raiders, and that was a year he was looking like an MVP until he broke his leg about 12, 13 games into the season, and he's been solid ever since and everything like that. But my biggest thing about Derek Carr and Devontae Adams is, well, more from Devontae Adams' situation is like you're going from one of the most talented quarterbacks of all time. Aaron Rodgers is one of the most talented quarterbacks of all time. Forget it, the things that he says on social media or his beliefs and everything like that. Him as a quarterback, he's outstanding. He'd rather play with one of his best friends.
So
that's amazing to me.
And that caught everyone by surprise.
Yeah.
Because
it was always rumblings, but like nobody ever took it serious. Like, yeah, he's your best friend, but I mean, you're playing with Aaron Rodgers, man.
And it was to the point to where you thought if he did leave Green Bay, it would be to follow Aaron Rodgers wherever he would have potentially ended up at. Obviously, he stayed. So there's that aspect of it. But man, yeah, I think that one was surprising. Russell Wilson to Denver shocked some people because, of course, we thought that they were lining up to be able to get Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers re-signs with Green Bay for at the time to make him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. That was short-lived thanks to Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. So, yeah, and like I said, I'm not being a homer. I love the Deshaun Watson, the quarterback, not the person, the quarterback acquisition for the Browns. I mean, to get a top 5 quarterback at 26 years old. I mean, you look at Russell Wilson going to Denver. It's closer to retirement than he is his prime. Matty Ice going to the Colts, closer to retirement than he is his prime. The Browns are the only one that made an addition this offseason that doesn't just put them in position to win now, win right away, but sets them up for success for at least the next decade.
Right.
And that's what's key. The Bengals made a similar type of move by getting that offensive line tightened up because that move was made to, yes, win now, but also to give themselves a chance to be contenders for the next decades plus with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson, the same age, which is crazy to me. Like they're both 26, correct? Or is Joe Burrow a little younger than that?
I think Joe was 25.
Either way, with the Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson will be and Lamar's young too. I do keep keeping him out, not purposely, but it's just that Ohio thing with the Bengals and Browns right now. But the AFC North,
Joe Burrow is 25. He'll be 26 in December.
So roughly within a year of one another. So these teams are all set up for success for the next decade. The Steelers, kind of that odd man out, but we know that that's an organization that makes just enough of the right moves to keep them in that position, as far as I'm concerned, to keep competing right there at the top. They had no business making the playoffs last year, and they did because of coaching. Great pieces on defense, too, with Watt and those guys, but at the same time, it's an offensive league. It's an offensive league, and that's really what it's going to come down to. But to the chat section we go. We're live on Facebook. Search the Justin Kinner Show. You can jump in the conversation with Kev and I there. Brian McCoy, Kev, says that Matty Ice has been melting since the Super Bowl loss. Amari Cooper is average at best. Russell Wilson days are best behind him. I don't think Cooper is average at best. I think Cooper is, like I said, he's that fringe one. He's too good to be a 2. But he's not a dominant 1. That's why I say he's a fringe 1. I think him and Jarvis would complement one another perfectly. That's why I'm hoping that they do everything they can to get him back. So I see why you're saying that. I can't prop up Amari Cooper just because he's with the Browns now, because I was not a big fan of his in Dallas, but he produced in Dallas. He just kind of disappeared in some big games. And in the AFC, we can't afford Cooper to have his weeks off like that. Right. You know what I mean? Like, that's the problem. Jamar Chase, that mofo, I know he had a stretch of like 6 games of like only 50 plus yards or what have you, but teams are going to take your number 1 wide receiver away. But T. Higgins stepped up.
Right.
The Browns don't have that number 2 right now unless they get Jarvis to step up. So when Cooper was shut down, the Cowboys, who have weapons, you were able to take them away. The Browns, you will suffocate them. If you take Amari Cooper away, Deshaun can elevate guys, but we got assuming he's out there. But who's that number 2? If the Browns get Jarvis, I think that elevates Amari Cooper. If there's no Jarvis and your second best wide receiver ends up being, Schwartz or one of these guys, or Donovan Peoples-Jones, I don't know. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a dominant 3, in my opinion, or has the capability to be a dominant 3. Maybe Deshaun elevates him to a 2. But for what I know right now, I'm not comfortable with the Browns' offense, even though they have Watson who can fill a lot of gaps in the offense. I would still rather not there be a lot of gaps because the Bengals don't have a lot of gaps. Now, with the O-line buttoned up, if Tyler Boyd's your 3rd best receiver, you're set. You're set. If Donovan Peoples-Jones is your 3rd best receiver, you're set. But he's your number 2 right now. They need to get Jarvis back.
Do they trade Kareem Hunt for draft picks?
So I've always said when Baker was with the Browns, the O-line was untouchable. The run game was untouchable because you had to protect Baker with those. Now you don't have to protect him as much. But I think that the Dearness Johnson
they gave him a little deal.
Makes sense. I think that they could dangle Kareem Hunt out there if need be. I don't know if it'll be this offseason. It could be at the deadline. You know what I mean? Like if the Browns are, let's say Watson is suspended for 6-7 games, they could just say, well, if we're out of the playoff picture, let's just trade him. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, I think that sets him up. But either way. All right, guys, that wraps it up for us here today. The show flew by, of course, when there's fun stuff to talk about. But Kev will do this again tomorrow. A full 3 hours coming your way tomorrow. Brian McCoy says Cooper would be the 3rd best receiver in Cincy. I give Cooper a slight edge over T. Higgins. I love T. Higgins, but I think Cooper's better than T. Higgins. I'll take Jamar Chase over Cooper. Where are you with that?
Probably 3rd. I would say 3rd.
You would take T over Cooper?
Yeah, because of the upside and the big playability. Like Amari Cooper doesn't make big plays anymore. He makes plays, but they're not huge plays.
When we say that, how much of that had to do with the Dak injury the year before and last year, Cooper being injured for some of the season?
True that.
But older, I'll take. I see for long. If you're talking long term, T. Higgins, I can get on board with that. But we still have the best quarterback, so that's all that matters. As Kev Nash said yesterday, hands down, Deshaun Watson, the best quarterback in the AFC North. What a hater! Am I right, guys? Can you believe this guy? Reds baseball coming up next, right here on Dayton's home of the Cincinnati Reds, 1410 Wing AM.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410.
CFOs that get it. The CFOs that don't. Behold the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer. This isn't some bean counter. Today's CFO is critical to the strategy, growth, and profitability of the business. But in growing companies, there are 2 kinds of CFOs. One who's struggling to keep up with spreadsheets everywhere, manual processes, errors, and lack of visibility into the numbers. It takes weeks to close the books. And one who's on top of their game. Automated reports, inventory, e-commerce, and HR flow into the financial model seamlessly. Insights coming with a click of a button. This CFO uses NetSuite by Oracle with visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, planning, and budgeting. NetSuite is everything you need to grow all in one place. That's why NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial